on the line. Friedge, welcome back to Tim and Sid. How are you and the family doing?
We're good. How are you guys doing?
I hear birds. You're in the backyard.
Yeah. What's the deal?
That was...
I just finished a Peloton ride, so I stink. And my wife told me, get out of the house while you do this hit. So I'm sitting on the back deck.
I'm trying. I just got a horrible visual in my head of Friedge ass up off the seat, really digging in to the Peloton because the instructor is like, "Come on, Friedge, dig in like you're finding a scoop. Give me another 4 kilometers." Is that how the Elliotte Friedman Peloton goes?
I don't know why you would be disgusted by that. To me, that's the most beautiful picture in the world.
I'm still on the hinterland who's who of your backyard, and I'm not moving away from it.
Have you heard, Friedge, did you hear Chris Cuthbert is working for Sportsnet now? Little Birdie told me.
I like the bird chirps. That's really good.
That was Macau.
That's really good. Really? No, yeah, of course. I heard it today. And I guess you were just playing a bunch of his calls, right?
Sure, you heard it today.
A couple seconds ago.
I like how he says today. Never mind.
No. So the one I always think of, and it's funny, I didn't hear it live because I was at the game, but when I went back home and heard it the next morning, like I think of the golden goal. Like that's the one that I think of.
And that was technically his last call on Sportsnet. Right? Because we were sharing the game, right? Wasn't that across numerous platforms in Vancouver in 2010? Help me out.
I never even thought about it that way.
I still worked for CBC at the time. That's right, and that was a Sportsnet Bell production. That's right. That's what it was.
That was the desk that had like Mackenzie and Kipper and it had everybody on it.
Bob
Darren Pang, I think, right?
What's that, Friedge? Sorry?
Was Darren Pang on that one too?
Oh, you got me. I'm not sure. Sorry, Tim. You asked what did Bob call it? Because he did call it. I was trying to think of.
Bob had a nickname for
the Unholy Alliance. I believe it was the Unholy Alliance.
The Unholy Alliance.
That's awesome. That was pretty good.
So, Friedge, what do we make of the NHL saying that Phase 2 is June 8th? Is this just necessary next step? Is this good news? Like, where are we at?
Well, I think necessary next step is probably the right phase. It doesn't sound like a high percentage of the players are going to go back to their NHL cities. It's not mandatory, right? And there are some teams like Montreal said it. Like Pittsburgh's got a few players around there, so they're going to put their ice in. But some other teams, like for example Montreal, I think they only have like one player around there, so they're not really sure. Are we going to put our ice in right away, or are we going to wait for more requests? One of the problems is still the border. The guys don't want to cross it if they've got to do the 14-day quarantine. So I don't know how big this is going to be. I don't know how big these workout groups are going to be. And I think in some places you're going to see more than others. To me, the big one is the mandatory one, and that one's Phase 3 no earlier than July 10th.
Elliotte Friedman, Hockey Night Canada and Sportsnet here on Tim and Sid. I would assume Friedge in Southern Ontario, though. There might be some lineups to get on ice.
Yes, there sure could be. And also don't forget, you're right, that, players who live in Toronto but don't play for the Leafs, they can also get involved if they want to. So, yes, I think there will be some opportunities for that, some guys who want to do it, no doubt about that. I'd say you're right, Sid.
So how will the Leafs have to navigate that? I mean, it was kind of vague on the initial announcement on how guys who didn't play for the local market but were in, say, a city like Toronto, and I'm sure there are other parts of Canada, Vancouver might have a similar. Do we know how we're going to navigate those waters and get those guys on ice? If there is, like, will the Leafs have to employ maybe not just one rink but 2 rinks, because they do have 2 in downtown Toronto?
You know what? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that question. But like the big thing is workout size, right? Like it's got to be small groups, no coaches, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think it all depends on scheduling, like how many guys want to do it, how do you work it out? But that's a good question. I don't know about necessarily the multiple rinks. It's a good thing I'm an insider. I'm full of all.
You're being distracted. You're just being distracted by the birds. I understand what's going on. That's right. You're just being distracted. If I ever go bird watching, I'm taking McAuliffe with me. I don't know if he'll agree with come to me in the woods, but that's a discussion for another day.
This is what you tune into Sportsnet for. McAuliffe's bird.
That's why Chris Cuthbert came here, Tim, for the bird impressions. Friedge, as you mentioned a lot, this phase coming up Monday is voluntary. Yeah. How many players have you been in contact with who are of the opinion, I'm just not ready? I haven't heard what I need to hear from my public officials. I'm nervous. I have family in a high risk situation, or I'm myself in a high risk situation. How many players don't care that it's going to be voluntary and just will choose for the moment to wait till maybe phase 3?
Well, you're asking me a different question. There's a couple different questions here, Sid. I think guys want to skate. Like if you tell them they can go on the ice and fool around with the puck and things like that, I think there's a lot of guys that want to do that. I think they're a little bit in summer mode right now. Like they're enjoying being with their families. I'm sure some of them are golfing a bit, but a lot of these guys are creatures of habit, and their body clocks are all off. They've been off since, they really haven't skated since March. And I think some guys have, but other guys haven't. So if you tell them, hey, you can go on the ice with some pucks and fiddle around and stuff like that, I think you will get a lot of guys who want to do that. What I think they don't want yet is they don't want to have to cross the border and quarantine. They don't want to have to commit to being away from their families. So I think it's two different things. Get on the ice and skate around a bit. I think there's a lot of guys who want to do that if they aren't already. Be in a quarantine, be sealed in the bubble, not yet. And the other thing too, Sid, is that it's starting to leak out now, but they're taking a big run at the CBA, and I think that's a very big part of this, and something people on both sides would like to solve before the players come back and play, because obviously it's a health issue. You want to feel as secure as you possibly can that the conditions are safe enough to play in. But also, I think for the players, if they want to come back, if they are going to come back, they want to make sure it makes financial sense for them to do it. If they're going to take the risk, they want to know that their escrow question can be answered a bit. And that's what the League and the Players Association are taking a very big run at right now. And I think in a perfect world, they would get it settled before the season resumes. I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it.
Elliotte Friedman joining us here on Tim and Sid, Sportsnet Hockey Insider, Hockey Night in Canada. So when you bring up the CBA, and we were eventually going to get there because we couldn't avoid it, I know average Joe just pulls back and says, I don't need to know about this. But as I think about it and I look at what's going on in baseball, and there's absolutely no doubt that the end of their CBA in 2021 is affecting their negotiations for 2020. And as of right now, it is not only holding it up, it could be on the verge of completely tripping it up. Is the NHL in danger of having this return to play affected by these CBA talks?
Well, I would say this. I would say that everybody, including the NBA and the NHL, is hyper aware of how this baseball situation is playing out. And they are look, we've been, you guys have been reporting through them and on air through them. At the best of times, when there's a lockout or a work stoppage, fans are mad. And these are, at least in our lifetimes, probably the worst of times. I don't know if all of society together has ever gone through situations like this, multiple situations like this at once. Yeah. And they know the fans certainly don't want to hear it. And they're looking at baseball, and the NBA is too, and they're saying, we don't need that. And they've done a really good job of keeping it out of the public view. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for that. Tim, I don't know if it'll prevent it from happening, but I know that there's a recognition that it makes it a lot easier on everyone if they can find a common ground. And I think that's what they're trying to do. It makes the whole situation easier if you can say to the players, okay, we're going to cap your escrow at this number for the next few years. And you can say to the league, okay, we know there's not going to be any disruptions, so we can get our next US TV deal. There is a benefit to both sides to getting it done. And that's what they recognize, and that's what they're trying to do.
Elliotte Friedman here on Tim and Sid. We mentioned a couple times in jest, Friedge, in terms of calling games off monitors when Chris Cuthbert gets in the seat for real. Are you hearing a media plan? Are you hearing a broadcasting plan in terms of who you can send, who you can't? There's already talk in Major League Baseball. There's going to be no road broadcasters allowed. If your team's on the road, you got to call it off a monitor. Anything along those lines you can tell us?
The one thing I do know is that it's going to be like a bare minimum of people. Like the days of, the NHL credentialing 500 to 1,000 people for media day or games and stuff like that for the Stanley Cup final.
That's done.
That's not happening probably until there's a vaccine. I know there have been who's the most important people right now? Probably the technical people, right? The people who've got to set up the cameras and the audio and anything that you're going to try to do to enhance the broadcast experience. So how many of them do you need? The people on site in the truck, how many of them do you need? And, so I think that I would bet it's most likely it's off monitor. And I would say there's going to be very, very few reporters there, if any at all.
Before we let you go, Elliotte, I wanted to bring up what happened in Ottawa yesterday. And no matter how you shake it down and no matter how it ended up being explained, the headline of the Sens Foundation cutting ties with the Ottawa Senators did not go over well. And there was a lot of head shaking once again at the Ottawa Senators. Are there other owners in the league or other people who have influence within the league that are looking at Ottawa and saying like all of these bad headlines need to stop? And could there ever be anything done along those lines?
I would say yes to your first question. And I know at times the league has been asked, is there anything you can do here? Mm-hmm. And I think other owners at times have asked, is there anything you can do here? And certainly people in Ottawa have asked if there's anything you can do here. And I think the answer is as long as he doesn't miss any payments or anything like that, there's not really much they can do. And I think that's the kind of, and I get the frustration. There's a lot of people in that organization who really think that they took big steps on the ice this year. They're excited about their draft. They're excited about their young players. And then this stuff keeps happening, whether it's a change in a CEO or this clumsy change of the foundation. But the other thing too is I think the league is very committed to the city. Like people say to me, could Eugene move the team or would the league want to move the team? I at one time I thought that might be a possibility, but I don't believe that anymore. I think the NHL is very committed to Ottawa. And the one time I really asked if that was possible, people said to me, don't go down that road. Like it's just not feasible. So I think as long as he continues to fund the team, I don't see that there would be any way that they would throw Melnyk out.
Getting Alexis Lafreniere would change the narrative a little bit.
It sure would.
They got a 13.5% chance with their pick, 11.5% chance with the Erik Karlsson pick. I mean, it's just hockey's a funny world that way. Like we're all looking at the same headline from yesterday and thinking, you got to be kidding me. But it's a strange world. Too is
they were kind of caught, right? They were kind of caught. Like the foundation sort of threw it out there, beat them to it, and all of a sudden, like you're playing catch up, right?
Yeah.
But that also lends to me, and I'm just talking out loud here, Friedge, forgive me. I don't know how many PR people are left in that organization. And I'm not kidding when I say that. Like I know that people have left. I know things have thinned even when life was normal. Like I don't know how many people around Eugene in a moment like that can react quickly in a way that's beneficial to the team from a PR standpoint when a headline like that comes out. I would assume there's not too many right now, and I think it lends to some of the things you see with that team.
Well, I think that they've been through a lot of people, and there's still people there. I mean, I find it really. I mean, you can't blame it on the PR staff or anything like that.
No, yeah.
Like
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm trying not to, but I'm just saying in terms of his actual inner. You know what I'm trying to say, right? In terms of that inner circle, are there enough people around Eugene? And I think we have enough evidence to maybe answer that question to say maybe not now with this, or maybe try this at a different date, or phrase this differently. I just don't know how many people there are that exist that can do that with Eugene Melnyk.
And it changes a lot too, right? Like every time you have change, you know, there's
a different
voice. It makes the organization more unstable.
Right. Yeah. 31 Thoughts. Another one was posted on June 4th. You can check it out at sportsnet.ca, and it includes this time around a couple of podcasts too. First with Kim Davis, the NHL's Executive Vice President of Social Impact Growth Initiatives and Legislative Affairs. Second with Jerome McGinley and Connor Brown. So check out Elliotte Friedman's 31 Thoughts. If you're not doing it, you're doing hockey wrong. Friedge, thanks for doing this. Have a great weekend, okay?
All right, guys. Check out a bird chirp on the way out. Oh, that sounds good.
It's rather soothing, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
I have an idea for a new app, McAuliffe Soothing Sounds. I think
it's one is the chirp and it's like, "Hey Ma, the meatloaf."
The meatloaf. A McAuliffe for every mood you have. I could see it now. $10 per download. It's no problem. We make some money. Friedge, have a good weekend, brother. Enjoy your backyard.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend.